Hey guys, Derek there, Dragon from RDA, and got another review today, and as you can probably tell, this one is another TSD gun. Now, first thing I need to say, I say this at the beginning of almost every TSD review for a reason. It's because it's true. TSD has good customer service, actually great customer service, so if anything goes wrong with this gun, there's a good warranty on it, and TSD will pretty much deal with it almost no questions asked. So, if you see something that's rebranded by TSD, they have 1, really good quality control, 2, really good customer service. So you don't really need to worry about the gun as a whole, period. So if it's TSD rebranded, you should feel happy. This isn't like other rebranders that take it, stamp their name on it, and then just raise the price. Alright, so moving on, let's actually go with the review. This is a review of something that's a little more, simple. It's very affordable and works very good in the cold. It's another non-blowback CO2 gun, kind of like a small 1911. But this one works a little bit interesting, just a little bit different. First, let me tell you what it comes with. It actually comes with the case, as you can see. It's a pretty standard case, but it's better than just a cardboard box. You can see lots of styrofoam packaged nicely. Don't worry about it breaking and shipping. It comes with some BBs. You can use these. They're not going to last very long, but you can use them. They're not low quality. Behind here, you can see your instruction manual. It's overall very simple because the gun is, well, very simple. That's pretty much all you need, but there's no Chinglish in here. And then, of course, you got the gun, which, as you can see, it's overall pretty small. It's like basically a mini 1911, but it does feel very comfortable. It's that perfect size of not too small and not too big, so it's very concealable. It's overall pretty hefty for its size because unlike other non-blowbacks, this one is actually full metal, which surprised me when I got it. Let's just get this stuff out of the way and continue on with that. Most non-blowbacks are completely ABS plastic. In fact, here's an example. Alright, so here's the example. It's the TSD M9. This is completely ABS plastic. There's really not one piece of metal on this. Is that a bad thing? Not really. It's pretty solid plastic, so nothing against this gun. But personally myself, obviously, I'd rather prefer metal, and this gun is completely metal other than the grips. Other than that, this performs a little bit differently than this one. The most obvious one is that this has a magazine. Like that, and you just push a normal mag release and it pops it out. And how you put CO2 in it is that you just pull back on this, and there you go, that's where you put CO2. Now, on the 1911 non-blowback, it works a little bit differently. See, if you push the mag release, something else happens with this one. That happens. So you can see I already have CO2 in here. But this sort of just pops out, which is one, kind of cool and very amusing. I don't know why it amuses me, but it's very simple, and how you load this one up actually doesn't have a mag. You just pull down on a spring here and lock it in place over to the side like that, and just pour them in there. At first I kind of thought, well, that's rather stupid, I'd rather just have magazines to load in. But then after shooting it, doing the accuracy test in chrono, I actually kind of like it a little more. It's actually a little bit easier to load them up. Just take a speed loader and it takes literally a second or so. So it's very, very quick to reload this thing, so it's not much of a problem at all. So it works a little bit differently. It's interesting. But I can't consider that a bad thing. I have always, for this guns that work just slightly different, people that aren't afraid to stray away from the usual. So thumbs up for that. Something else that they noticed about it is that if you do that, the little screw thing on the bottom, where, like I mentioned, you push this, and that's where you put the CO2, there's a thing on the bottom here to screw it in. Usually that would just kind of be, you know, moving around like that, making a little bit of noise while you're running, which is a little annoying. With this one, they put a spring on the bottom, so it stays in place and stays flush with the gun, so you can't even see it. But that's how you screw in the CO2. And as I mentioned, there's already CO2 in here. This gun is actually more gas efficient than most CO2 non-blowbacks. This is the same CO2 cartridge I've been using in both the chrono and the accuracy test, and it's not getting any weaker. So it's still working perfectly fine. I mean, there's a lot of CO2 left in it. So this gun is very gas efficient, even for a CO2 non-blowback. This gun also shoots very, very hard, shooting about 450 feet per second, which is it's above average for a CO2 non-blowback. Alright, I've gone ahead and zoomed in on the gun for you just to give you guys a little bit better of a look towards the gun. Something else about this gun, I forgot to mention, the safety is pretty much your standard non-blowback safety. It's just a switch here. When it's like this, you cannot fire, and unlike the other ones where it just kind of locks the trigger, with this one, you pull it and nothing happens. If you push back, you can pull the trigger. The other thing is that the trigger pull, of course it's a non-blowback, so the trigger pull is going to be a little bit harder than your standard blowback, but it's honestly not that bad. It's not like the KJW Mark II where it's ridiculous, and it's actually a little bit less than this one over here. So the pullback on the trigger is actually not that bad. Don't let someone exaggerate how bad it is, but do note that you have to pull the trigger back noticeably harder than your standard gas blowback. The sights on this gun are overall pretty good. There's a dot on the front sight, and it has pretty standard 1911 tactical sights. They're not the older sights, they're the kind of newer ones, and they are actually adjustable in the back, which is something that is awesome. Moving over here, there is a trademark, but really it just says 6mm. It says caliber 6mm, so it's not much of a trademark. The only other trademarks is the little triangle type things right here, which kind of make it look nice, but other than that, there's no trademarks on this gun. Alright, so I think I've covered everything on this gun. It's a very simple gun. There's really not much to cover. This gun, again, is for the affordable budget players or the people that play in colder areas. Around here, this would work perfect because CO2 doesn't have the cooldown factor that propane does, and this is also not blowback, so it doesn't have the moving parts that can possibly freeze. This gun is only $65 at reddragonairsoft.net. There's a link down below to where you can buy it. There's also a link down below to RDA's forum. So I'll see all you guys next video. Who would have figured that that would be like the best combination ever? It tastes so weird, but it tastes so good.